What if I told you that Ethiopia, ancient nation with deep biblical roots, holds clues to understanding the end times prophecies? Ethiopia is often considered a pivotal figure in Christian eschatology due to its connections to biblical figures, its claimed custody of the Ark of the Covenant, and its royal family's alleged descent from King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. The significance of this nation, known as Cush in the Bible, stretches from the earliest scriptures to the possible future role it could play in shaping the destiny of the world. Let's explore Ethiopia's biblical legacy and its potential role in eschatological events, delving into how this nation could impact the future according to Scripture. Ethiopia, or Cush, has deep ties to the Bible, dating back to the earliest chapters of Genesis. The land of Cush is first mentioned as one of the regions surrounding the Garden of Eden. Genesis 2:13 states, "The name of the second river is the Gihon. It is the one which flows around the whole land of Cush." This early reference ties Ethiopia to the cradle of civilization, suggesting that its existence was acknowledged in the dawn of biblical history. The people of Cush, identified as descendants of Noah's son Ham, are also described as having a long-standing influence on the ancient world. Ethiopia's role in biblical prophecy grows even more significant when we consider prophecies tied to the end times. Isaiah 18 speaks of a land beyond the rivers of Cush that will bring offerings to God during the eschaton. Many scholars interpret this as a reference to Ethiopia, suggesting that the nation may play a significant role in prophetic events surrounding the return of Christ. The suggestion that Ethiopia might offer something of great significance to God hints at the idea that it could possess an important spiritual or religious artifact, the most prominent being the Ark of the Covenant. One of the most astonishing claims about Ethiopia is that it may be the final resting place of the Ark of the Covenant. This sacred object, which housed the Ten Commandments, symbolized God's presence among His people. According to biblical history, the Ark was housed in Solomon's temple in Jerusalem until the Babylonians destroyed the temple in 586 BC, after which it disappeared from the historical record. However, Ethiopian tradition offers a bold and controversial claim. According to the Kebra Nagast, a 14th century Ethiopian text, the Ark was taken from Jerusalem to Ethiopia by Menelik Fufar, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. This story asserts that the Ark has been housed in the Church of St. Mary of Zion in Aksum ever since. The Ark, according to legend, is guarded by a single monk who is appointed for life to ensure its safety. No one else is allowed to view or touch the Ark, making it one of the world's greatest mysteries. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church holds this tradition with deep reverence, firmly believing that it is the true custodian of the Ark. But why does this matter in the context of end times prophecy? In the book of Revelation, the Ark is said to reappear as part of God's redemptive plan, playing a significant role in the final days. Revelation 11:19 describes the Ark of the Covenant appearing in the temple of God, suggesting that its return would mark a pivotal moment in the unfolding of divine prophecy. If Ethiopia indeed holds the Ark, its revelation could become a key event in the apocalyptic timeline, symbolizing God's covenant with His people and the beginning of the end. Another fascinating aspect of Ethiopia's biblical legacy is its royal lineage, which claims direct descent from King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. According to Ethiopian tradition, the Queen of Sheba visited King Solomon after hearing of his wisdom and wealth. The Bible recounts her visit in 1 Kings 10:1-13, where she brings gifts to Solomon and praises him for his great wisdom. However, Ethiopian tradition takes this story further, asserting that the union between Solomon and Sheba resulted in the birth of a son, Menelik I. Menelik I is said to have returned to Ethiopia, bringing the Ark of the Covenant with him and establishing the Solomonic dynasty, which ruled Ethiopia until the 20th century. This royal lineage connects Ethiopia directly to the Davidic line, from which the Messiah was prophesied to come. If Ethiopia's royal family truly descends from King Solomon, It places the nation at the center of messianic prophecy, further elevating its significance in biblical history and its potential role in the end times. The connection to King Solomon and the Davidic line also introduces the possibility that Ethiopia could be tied to Zion itself. In eschatological terms, Zion represents the place of God's dwelling, often interpreted as Jerusalem. However, some scholars and theologians have speculated that Ethiopia, with its rich Christian heritage and Solomonic dynasty, could represent a form of spiritual Zion, a nation chosen by God for a special purpose in the end times. Ethiopia, referred to as Cush in many biblical passages, appears in several key prophecies regarding the final days. One of the most significant references is found in Ezekiel 38:5, where Ethiopia, Cush, is listed as one of the nations that will join an alliance led by Gog in a climactic battle against Israel. This battle is often linked to the Battle of Armageddon, the ultimate confrontation between the forces of good and evil described in the book of Revelation. Ethiopia's inclusion in this prophetic alliance suggests that the nation will play a significant role in the final events leading to the return of Christ. Isaiah 18 also offers a fascinating glimpse into Ethiopia's potential role in the end times. The chapter speaks of a powerful nation beyond the rivers of Cush that will send envoys to bring offerings to God in the last days. Some scholars interpret this passage as a reference to Ethiopia's potential involvement in the restoration of God's covenant with his people. The mention of offerings raises the possibility that Ethiopia could play a role in the return of the Ark of the Covenant, symbolizing the reestablishment of God's presence on earth. Ethiopia's biblical connections, from its early mentions in Genesis to its role in end times prophecy, paint a picture of a nation deeply intertwined with God's plan for humanity. Whether through its alleged custody of the Ark of the Covenant, its Solomonic dynasty, or its potential involvement in the final battles of prophecy, Ethiopia stands as a nation with a unique and profound role in both biblical history and the eschaton. As one of the oldest Christian nations in the world, Ethiopia has preserved its ancient traditions and maintained a strong connection to its biblical heritage. In a world increasingly focused on the future, Ethiopia's past may hold the key to understanding the events that will shape the ultimate destiny of humanity. Could Ethiopia indeed be the true Zion, a nation chosen by God for a special role in the final days? Only time will tell, but the nation's deep biblical roots and prophetic significance ensure that its place in God's plan will not be forgotten. Ethiopia has long been a nation deeply rooted in its Christian faith, preserving its spiritual traditions for centuries. This profound devotion has led some to believe that Ethiopia may be preparing for the spiritual battles that could mark the final days of history. The Bible frequently mentions Ethiopia, known as Cush, in connection with important prophetic events. Scholars, theologians, and historians have debated Ethiopia's potential role in these future events. Could Ethiopia play a more central role in biblical prophecy than we previously thought? One of the more controversial theories surrounding Ethiopia involves the possible location of Mount Sinai, the sacred mountain where Moses received the Ten Commandments from God. Traditionally, Mount Sinai is believed to be in the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. However, recent research has led some scholars to propose that the true Mount Sinai might actually be located in Ethiopia. This bold claim challenges long-held beliefs about biblical geography and could dramatically reshape our understanding of the Exodus story. In Exodus 19, Moses ascends Mount Sinai to meet with God, who delivers the law that would guide the Israelites. If the true Mount Sinai is indeed in Ethiopia, this ancient nation would become the setting for one of the most pivotal moments in human history, the moment when God made his covenant with Israel. The suggestion that Mount Sinai is located in Ethiopia could shift our understanding of the Exodus, placing Ethiopia at the heart of a defining biblical event. What evidence supports this theory? The mountainous regions of Ethiopia bear a striking resemblance to the descriptions of Mount Sinai given in the Bible. Some scholars argue that the topography and geographic markers in parts of Ethiopia align more closely with the biblical narrative than the traditional location in Egypt. For instance, certain mountains in Ethiopia share similarities with the descriptions of Mount Sinai in terms of altitude and isolation. If this theory is correct, Ethiopia, not Egypt, may be the true location of this sacred site. The implications of this theory are profound. If Mount Sinai is in Ethiopia, it reinforces the nation's significance in biblical history, marking it as the true setting for God's covenant with Israel. While still a controversial claim, it suggests that Ethiopia has played a far more central role in biblical history than previously thought, elevating its importance in God's overarching plan for humanity. Ethiopia's connection to the lost tribes of Israel adds yet another layer to its biblical and prophetic significance. The Beta Israel, also known as the Ethiopian Jews, are believed by many to be descendants of the tribe of Dan, one of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. This ancient Jewish community has lived in Ethiopia for thousands of years, preserving their traditions and beliefs even in relative isolation from the wider Jewish world. The modern history of Beta Israel is equally fascinating. In the 20th century, many Ethiopian Jews were airlifted to Israel during Operation Solomon, a dramatic rescue mission that brought thousands of Ethiopian Jews to their ancestral homeland. For many, this mass migration fulfilled a key biblical prophecy regarding the regathering of the Jewish people in the last days. The prophet Ezekiel 3:7-19-24 speaks of a time when God will reunite the scattered tribes of Israel and bring them back to their homeland, an event that many believe has already begun. The return of Beta Israel to Israel has been seen by some as a direct fulfillment of this prophecy, marking Ethiopia as a crucial player in the eschatological timeline. The belief that the Beta Israel are descendants of the tribe of Dan places Ethiopia at the center of the prophecies regarding the lost tribes of Israel. According to biblical prophecy, the regathering of the lost tribes is one of the key events that will occur before the return of the Messiah. This makes Ethiopia not only significant in biblical history but also a nation with a divine mission that is still unfolding today. Could Ethiopia's Jewish community be part of God's plan to gather His people in preparation for the end times? The regathering of the lost tribes is a central theme in eschatology, and Ethiopia's involvement in this process places it firmly within the biblical narrative of the last days. In the highlands of Ethiopia lies one of the most remarkable and mysterious religious sites in the world, Lalibela, home to the famed rock-hewn churches. Built in the 12th century, these churches were carved directly out of the mountains and were intended to serve as a new Jerusalem during a time when Christian access to the original Jerusalem was restricted. The churches of Lalibela became a pilgrimage site for Ethiopian Christians, symbolizing their deep devotion to their faith. The design and layout of Lalibela are said to mirror the geography of Jerusalem, and the site holds profound religious significance. But could Lalibela be more than just a symbol of faith? Some scholars believe that the rock-hewn churches may contain hidden clues regarding the second coming of Christ. Revelation 21:2 speaks of the New Jerusalem descending from heaven, a place where God will dwell with His people. Lalibela's connection to this prophetic imagery has led some to speculate that it could serve as more than just a representation of Jerusalem on earth. It could be a prophetic symbol of the events to come in the end times. Pilgrims have long viewed Lalibela as a sacred place, and its reputation as a New Jerusalem only enhances its spiritual significance. Could this ancient site hold hidden insights about the events that will unfold at the second coming of Christ? Ethiopia's sacred architecture may be pointing to the fulfillment of biblical prophecy, adding yet another layer to the nation's prophetic role in the last days. Perhaps the most controversial claim regarding Ethiopia's prophetic significance is the belief held by some Ethiopian Christians that their country is the true Zion. Psalm 87:4 makes a striking reference to Ethiopia Cush, alongside other nations, stating, "I will record Rahab in Babylon among those who acknowledge me, Philistia too and Tyre, along with Cush, and will say, 'This one was born in Zion.'" This verse, combined with Ethiopia's deep religious traditions, has led some to suggest that Ethiopia, not Israel, is the true Zion. If Ethiopia is indeed the true Zion, it would radically shift our understanding of biblical geography and the end times narrative. Traditionally, Zion is understood to be Jerusalem, the city where Christ will return to establish his kingdom. However, Ethiopian Christians believe that their country, with its long history of faith and its possible guardianship of the Ark of the Covenant, could be the spiritual Zion referenced in the Bible. The Kebra Nagast, a revered Ethiopian text, reinforces this claim, suggesting that the Ark of the Covenant was always destined to rest in Ethiopia, not Israel. If this is true, Ethiopia could emerge as the focal point of God's kingdom in the final days, challenging the long-held belief that Israel is the spiritual center of the end times. Ethiopia's connections to biblical history and prophecy run deep. From the possibility of housing the Ark of the Covenant to the claim that it could be the true Zion, Ethiopia's prophetic significance cannot be ignored. Whether through its connection to the lost tribe of Dan, its role in the final battles of prophecy, or the spiritual symbolism of Lalibela, Ethiopia stands as a nation that may be critical in the unfolding of end times events. As we move closer to the fulfillment of these prophecies, Ethiopia's role in God's plan will become even more evident. What do you think? Could Ethiopia play a pivotal role in the end times?